at American Top Team here in South Florida, Coconut Creek, and just one top fighter after another after another. What a great place to be. Grant Dawson, unbelievable, 21-1, fighting for UFC, just coming off a big victory, UFC on ESPN 48 against Damir. Unbelievable, unanimous decision, co-main event July 1st. Thank you so much, Grant. First of all, what was that fight like for you, and getting in there and just keep elevating your training, your status, your fighting?
Yeah, so the fight was really good, and one of the things that I'm super happy about is I finally had one of those days. A lot of these veterans talk about they have this day where they just don't believe anybody could beat them, and I've never had one of those days, and against Damir, I finally had one of those days where in the back, I just really felt like nobody was going to beat me that night. I felt good, I felt clean, I felt like everything was sharp, the weight cut was super easy, the rehydration process was just phenomenal. Literally could not have gone better. It was even one of those scenarios where I was just waiting for something to go wrong because this was just too good to be true. So one of the best I've ever felt, and then actually being able to get into the cage and perform the way that I performed really put a stamp on everything that I'm doing. I think that I'm doing everything right.
That's so good that I'm glad you brought that up, because your wrestling, your riding ability is just off the charts. But here at American Top Team, now you're starting to put other things together and all, and you said how great you felt. Just what has it been like training here, and how do you feel overall about your game and what things you're improving on?
I think that American Top Team is one of the best gyms, if not the best gym in the world. During my camp, there was a day where we were doing groups of 4, and I had 3 guys in the top 15 that I was going with. So there was 4 guys in the top 15 in the same weight class going with each other. Where else are you going to find competition like that to push you in the gym every single day? One of the best gyms in the world, if not the best, and I'm very, very happy with the progress that I've been making here. And I've only been here for a year and a half. Once I start hitting the 2-year, 3-year, 4-year mark, I think I'm going to be untouchable.
Grant, what was it like? What brought you to American Top Team? How did you get to American Top Team?
So it's kind of a long story, but I'll keep it short. I knew I needed to make a change when I fought Leonardo Santos. I was having kind of a shitty fight. Things weren't going my way. I ended up getting the finish with the last second on the clock, bonus. I knew I needed to make a change, but I decided to buy a house instead. Then I fought a guy named Ricky Glenn. I went to a draw with him, and I was a minus 550 favorite to beat him. Went to a draw, co-main event. I dropped the ball totally, exactly. So I knew I needed to make a change. I did make the change. Johnny Eblen showed up to the gym that I was at literally the day after I decided I'm going to a different gym, I just don't know where. Johnny Eblen showed up, and I said, all right, like, I hear you, reading you loud and clear, whoever's up there, I'm going. So I talked to him, and he got me down here at American Top Team, and I've been here ever since.
What has it been like in South Florida? Because, tell me, right or wrong, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Missouri.
Yeah.
Missouri. Yeah. So Wisconsin, Missouri.
Cold. Yeah. So I
like Nebraska, but
no, I like Nebraska too. There's just nothing to do there, you know, and it's super cold in the winters and it's decently hot in the summers. So I definitely love the weather. My wife absolutely adores the weather here, so that's a super big plus. And it's just hard to be in a bad mood in a state like this. So I'm very happy with the move. I love Florida. I love the politics in Florida. I love everything about Florida. I'm very happy. I haven't seen snow in a year and a half, so I'm very happy about that.
Oh, you don't miss snowball fights and all that stuff?
I miss snow for about a day, and then I got to dig my car out of 2 feet of snow in the freezing cold. I'm good.
What did you said what a perfect day you had the last fight. What did you take away learning-wise from the last fight and all? Because Damir is a really good fighter. I mean, this was a good battle for you, co-main event on ESPN.
I think the biggest thing that I took away from the fight would be you can't finish everybody. I currently have 20 wins with 17 finishes, and so it's one of those things, once you start getting the high level, you're going to have guys that you just can't put away. You can be in dominant positions constantly, you can be trying to get the submission constantly and the finish constantly and just it not show up. So I think I enjoyed the fact that I showed that I can fight for 15 minutes and win every second of 15 minutes.
When you were growing up, were you always athletic? You had football and wrestling? Were there other sports that you competed in?
So I did football in high school for the first 2 years, and then I quit doing football so that I could wrestle because I wanted to do MMA. when I got out of high school. So, well, I did MMA in high school, but also I wanted to like make a career out of it after high school. So I just focused on wrestling and MMA after my, sophomore year.
MMA training and getting involved as a high school student athlete, what was that like for you at a young age, getting involved with that?
So it was really good. It was something that I super enjoyed doing, and I'm very, very lucky in the sense that I found out what I wanted to do with my life at a young age. You know, a lot of people, they graduate high school and they go to college because they just don't know what they want to do. For me, being able to figure out like, hey, I love training and I love fighting. This is what I want to do, whether I make it or not, this is what I'm going to try to do. And having great parents to encourage me to do it. And then it was almost like fate, because my high school wrestling coach was also a professional fighter. So he kind of like helped guide me through the process and like would help, you know, give me advice on what to do. I still talk to him to this day. He actually just texted me yesterday and we talked for a bit. So it was really great to have those types of people behind me. And I think the biggest gift that I was ever given in life was just knowing what I wanted to do with my life at a young age.
Him and family, have they been at fights? They get to see you fight professionally yet? Your coach and your high school coach and
so
your family.
My high school coach actually cornered me for a couple of fights, so that was really, really cool. And then my family has been to every fight I've been in, other than the last couple because of COVID. When COVID hit, they're in the Apex, and regular people aren't allowed in the Apex. So those are the only fights that they haven't been able to attend. But yeah, they're super supportive. They absolutely love it. They want me to fight more than I want to fight because they know how much I love it. So they're always asking me, hey, when's the next one? When's the next one?
That is so cool. And another thing too is, because I want a little touch back on the football. When you were little though, did you have aspirations like, oh, maybe I could be a pro football player? And what happened in high school? Was it just a size, ability? What was it for you that, no, I'm better at wrestling, let me go that route in MMA?
Well, so I think it was, I went to a really small school and I still didn't get to play because I'm bad at football. I wanted to be in the NFL, I wanted to be a pro athlete growing up, and I never got to compete in football, so I decided to go to wrestling, because at least in wrestling I could practice, and then compete, you know? So that was my big thing. And then when I found MMA, I was like, man, this is it. Like, there's no teams, there's no, like, when I win, it's all me. It's all on me. When I lose, it's all on me. So I love that about it, and I started to, like, get into that, and I started with, like, just self-defense videos and, like, the Bass Rootin', like, how to beat somebody in a bar videos, and I just carried it on. And then I actually had a bunch of backyard fights. We had a backyard organization with a duct tape belt. I was 22-0. So.
Do you still have the duct tape belt?
I don't, but I do have the fights on video. On DVD. So
you gotta. That has to be like one of those subscribe only things or something, and do that.
Find my. I gotta get them out and put them on YouTube or something.
You gotta do something with that. And honestly, if you had that belt, can you imagine on eBay what that thing might go for?
I gotta win the UFC belt first, and then that thing will be worth a lot.
Yes, then the stock goes up. So, and it's so cool too, because now. So you were growing up in Wisconsin?
I was born in Wisconsin. I grew up in Nebraska.
In Nebraska. So that's interesting too, because Nebraska, big football country. But wrestling too is big in Nebraska as well. I mean,
I think they got one of the best wrestling teams, you know, college-wise in the world. You got Jordan Burroughs is from there. Lots of really good wrestlers coming from Nebraska.
With that in mind, I'm just curious as far as, and football, was it something that, when you got involved in wrestling and having all this training that you had, amateur wrestling and all, how do you think all that helped you transitioning to MMA? And I know you said in high school you start transitioning to MMA.
I think it helped a lot. I think the biggest thing was mindset, because when I went to transition, so I'd done wrestling for 2 years, and then I transitioned into MMA and wrestling, so I did both. And it was a jiu-jitsu gym, so I was getting really good control from wrestling, and I was getting really good submissions from the MMA. My striking was lacking a lot, but when you have good grappling like that, you really don't need it can
as much striking.
So far. It can carry you so far. So I think that really, really helped me out a lot in the sense of like, and two, I remember vividly, I wasn't as nervous going into wrestling matches because I had fought before. Like I had felt the pressure of fighting another human being. Like you're just trying to like take me down and hold me. There's no damage. I'm not getting hit in the face, you know. So it was perfect. It was just a really good transition of competing.
How much is it instinct then for you? Because there are certain things you can teach someone, and then some things are just instinctive or naturally born. His light goes off. There we go. Good job. He can do it all. He's a magician too. Look at that. Grant Dawson. See him in Vegas. No. So how much do you think too, though, like the riding, man, it's incredible. Your grappling is incredible. Not to give you a big head, but how much do you think too that's instinctive? Because it just seems not everyone could do that.
Right. I think I got into wrestling late. I didn't start wrestling until 8th grade. And I didn't start taking it seriously until my senior year. And I think riding does come naturally to me because I was so bad at everything else. I had a really good gas tank. I would literally, up until my senior year, I would be down like 5 points in the 3rd period, and everybody's tired, so I would just go. And I had a really good ride in wrestling. And then if you add in the jiu-jitsu that I did, you know, from an early age, I think that helped me out quite a bit moving into MMA because I could get the takedown with my wrestling, I could keep the takedown with my wrestling, and then I could get the submission with my jiu-jitsu.
When you're learning here at American Top Team and you're competing in UFC highest level, what things are you taking away too? Because the riding and your wrestling, it's also about keeping busy too. Because you don't know sometimes how the judges are going to score things and all.
Right.
What have you been learning about that aspect of the profession, about the sport, and things you need to do? And you're working on your striking, you're working on other aspects. Because when you get to UFC, it's all about being so just
good everywhere.
Yeah, yes.
I think the biggest thing is like when you get the takedown, just work. Like it doesn't have to be humongous bludgeoning strikes, but as long as it's like, dude, I'm offense and he's defense, I think it's really hard for judges to see it any other way than that. Being able to go out and do that to somebody like Damir has really shown me that what I'm doing here is working completely for what I'm doing, because he's so high level. 24-3, amazing record. He's beat some really good guys. He has a loss in the UFC that isn't me, but it did not look like my fight. I've beat him the worst than anybody's ever beat him. So it's one of those things that really tells me I'm doing what I need to do.
Now here at the gym at American Top Team here in South Florida in Coconut Creek, I'm curious, who have you worked with that you're like, hey, they've got some really good riding, they've got some really good mat skills?
Man, since day one of getting here, I started working with Thiago Moises, who's also in the UFC. He's fought Islam Makhachev. He's been in the top 15. One of the best and most underrated fighters in the division. And man, I gotta tell you, he's got some of the best jiu-jitsu when it hits the ground. He's so technical, he's so good. It's not like a cardio thing or a strength thing. It's just everything that he does is just perfect technique. And so being able to work with him and become really close with him has been able to show me like what I've been doing wrong, the mistakes that I'm making. And dude, he'll humble you fast because I'm coming off this big win, I'm thinking I'm all that in a bag of chips, and then he goes out and he subs me with something stupid and I feel like an idiot. So I really enjoy having him. I've worked a lot with Renato Moicano, who's also in the top 15, really good jiu-jitsu. We have a very similar ground style. Our wrestling is different, but once we get the takedown, we're very similar. Get the body triangle, look for the choke. And so being able to pick his brain has been just fantastic. And the biggest thing I think I can say from this gym is when I do well against the people here, I know that I'm going to do well in the cage because they're the highest level as it gets.
You come down here to South Florida, you're coming down here from the Midwest area and all, and we talked a little bit about football. I'm curious, who in football, did you have a favorite team? Did you have a favorite player? Just something like that.
So growing up, we're from Wisconsin. My dad loves the Packers, so I would watch the Packers with my dad all the time. So I'm always cheering for the Packers, always rooting for the Packers.
Do you have a cheese head?
No, I don't. My dad does though.
Yes.
I don't have one. I've never worn it. No, but I love the Packers. Anytime they're playing, I root for them. But then I did live in Missouri for 8 years. So the Chiefs, the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm a big Patrick Mahomes fan. Tyreek Hill also, I don't think he's still on the team.
Dolphins. Now he's down here.
Dude, I'm following Tyreek Hill around. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So he comes here and then you're...
I think I came here
No,
first.
you came in first. That's right, he's following you.
Yeah, he's following me. So yeah, hey, real recognizes real, right?
Yes!
So I got to say, anytime that the Packers or the Chiefs play, I'm rooting for those guys.
And another thing I'm curious about, let's get to this a little bit and we'll wrap this up. Pro wrestling, I know it's a totally different ball game and all, but we're seeing that, hey, there is good money there. That's another business and all. And there are many amateur wrestlers that have transitioned later on into pro wrestling. You can mention Kurt Angle is one of them, an Olympic champion and all. Brock Lesnar is another one. I mean, there's many. Ronda Rousey even went into that and all. Were you ever a fan of pro wrestling? Does that even ever enter your mind? Like, hey, maybe someday I'll give that a shot.
I would definitely be down to give it a shot. The problem is their work schedule. They work every weekend, and the way that their contracts are laid out, it's like they work every weekend for 3 years, and you've got this amount of, like, and you get $5 million for that money is great, but man, I don't want to be away from my wife. I want to have kids in the future, and soon. I want to have kids soon. I don't want to be away from my family. I think that that companionship is worth way more than any amount of money. So I would definitely be down to do like 1 or 2, maybe an off split, just for fun. Don't even have to pay me that much. But I can't be away from my family for every weekend for 3 years. It's just not going to work.
But some of you mentioned family too, because I wanted to ask you about that. Your wife is also an MMA fighter.
Yeah, she's here. She trains.
She trains here too. What can you tell a little bit about her fighting, and just real quick, how you guys met?
So she is 5-1 as a pro. She was kind of dealt a bad hand in that I think she's really good and she works really, really hard, but she's so small. She's 105. The UFC doesn't have her weight class. We've tried to compete at 115, and it's
hard.
She's just too small. Like, she's better than those girls, but technique doesn't really matter when size comes into it. Size and conditioning comes into it. So that's great. How we actually met was she fought on a promotion that my old gym owned, and she fought a girl that I was friends with, and I would help train, and that's how I knew about her. And then we added on Snapchat and started talking. So it's been love ever since. You know, one date, we've been together ever since. So it's just a true story, man.
Is there a lot of MMA talk at home, or you guys try to keep that separate?
That our home life and our MMA life are one and the same.
Yeah.
Like, all we do is watch fights. All we do is talk MMA. She's got a betting podcast. Anything to do with MMA, we're always talking about it, always watching fights. We revolve our life around MMA.
Not only are you an outstanding top fighter, but also a fan.
Yeah, I love MMA. Dude, I am obsessed with MMA. And I actually think that's what sets me apart from other fighters is these guys are good, everybody works hard, everybody's got heart, but not everybody is obsessed. You can't force somebody to be obsessed. You can force somebody to work hard, you can force somebody to be in shape, you can force somebody to take it seriously, but you can't force somebody to be obsessed with it. When nobody's watching you, what are you doing? I'm watching film. When nobody's watching me, I'm thinking about MMA. When nobody's watching me, I'm still involved in MMA, and I think that everybody else isn't.
How many times have you watched a Damir fight?
Probably close to 100 times.
Yes, that's what I like to hear.
I watch my fights.
You back up what you say. Yeah. You do, Dawson.
I watch everything, man. I love fights.
All
especially
right.
mine.
Oh, especially when you do well like that.
If I don't do good, then I don't watch it as much.
All right, so a couple things, and here we go. We'll get you out of here. So, Dana White's Contender Series.
Season 1.
Season 1. How did that change your life?
It was huge. It was absolutely huge. And I think one of the biggest things that I took from Dana White's Contender Series was I felt like I belonged. It wasn't like this is a dream and all this pressure was on me and I felt like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. I was nervous, absolutely. I was scared to say, absolutely. But it was just one of those things where I really felt like I belonged and I knew I was going to get the contract. And then when I did get the contract, it wasn't like this giant weight had been lifted off my shoulder. It was, we got it, let's keep moving, let's keep going. You know, I've always been that guy that once I accomplish, what's next? Which is a good thing and a bad thing. It's hard for me to kind of sit back and be like, hey, good job, Grant. But it keeps me motivated and moving forward. But you do have to enjoy your wins.
What's next?
I think we're going to go for top 3. I think we're trying to get Beneil Dariush is what we're trying to do. It's a fight that makes sense. I am down for what fight gets me close to the belt.
Cardio. Tremendous cardio.
Thank you.
You can't teach cardio, though. You can to a degree.
Right.
But is that also something instinctive that just you had the ability to have good cardio?
I've always had good conditioning. Whether I've worked hard or not, I've always, in wrestling, I had heart and cardio. My technique was dog crap, but everything else was just cardio and moving forward, push, 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 and I think that's carried over into MMA really, really well. And honestly, as I've gotten older, my strength has gone up, but my cardio has stayed the same, so it's a double whammy.
Now, Dawson, we're near the 20-minute mark. I want to give you 20 and get you out of here because I don't want to. I want to do what I say.
Right, right.
So I'm going to do these two real quick. But high school, and you did transition MMA. Did you have any thoughts of college wrestling, or no? You always wanted to go MMA.
So I did get offered a college scholarship to a university in Nebraska, not the University of Nebraska.
Not the Cornhuskers.
No, not the Corn. A tiny little school, and it was a quick thought for a second, but I decided against it. The biggest thing was I wanted to do MMA, not wrestling, and the second biggest thing is I'm dyslexic. I had a lot of trouble in
struggles
school.
academically, just trying to deal with all that.
I had a lot of people that had to help me in school, and I just didn't want to deal with that in college. So
you could also be a role model for others that have dyslexia, though, too, just as far as success and doing other things and everything.
I also think that there are definitely some things you need. If you have a dream of being a lawyer, you have to go to college for that. If you have a dream of being you have to go to college.
Doctor.
Yeah, perfect example. But there are a lot of things, like if you don't know what you want to do, maybe unless you're getting college for free, maybe don't rack up that debt not knowing what you want to do. Now, if you have a clear path in mind, then it's worth it. But if you just want to go and like get a business degree and kind of party, and it's going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Paying for the rest of your life.
Paying for the rest of your life, don't do it. At least there's no age limit to college. Figure out what you want to do first, and then if you even need college, then do it.
Grant Dawson, he's incredible. I've become a bigger fan now. He would bonus time a minute, so I am wrapping this up. Because I have to ask this one. My favorite question on the whole thing. What does it mean to you when I say Star Wars?
You found my guilty pleasure. I absolutely love Star Wars. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. My dad is a huge Star Wars fan. There was a so when George Lucas redid the movies, he put them out in theaters again when I was a kid. My dad took me to Star Wars in theaters, the original. I've seen every single Star Wars movie in theaters, and I don't think a whole lot of people can say that. I absolutely love Star Wars. It is definitely my guilty pleasure. My wife loves Star Wars. She probably knows more about it than I do. It's great.
And that's what keeps them together. Let me tell you right there, it's the Star Wars connection. It's the Star Wars love connection.
It's a match made in heaven.
Star Wars or Packers?
Star Wars.
There we go. That's it. Grant Dawson, UFC. Check them out. Do you have social media for fans?
Yeah, check me out on Instagram. Good.
Yep.
Check me out on Instagram. Also on TikTok, I am doing this series where I talk about how to make it to the UFC using Fight IQ. A lot of things that I had to experience and find out the hard way. I'm talking about these things. I'm helping young fighters kind of make the right decisions to get to where they want to be. So go check that out. It's kind of getting a little bit of steam, and I'd love for just as many young fighters to be able to see that as possible.